Okay, you should know the number of lanes on the two roads, and this is the value of the minimum volume. Okay, this is vehicles on the major road for both directions, vehicles on the minor road for one direction. So major road you have to match both direction volume, minor road you have to match one direction volume. Which direction? Huh? Higher one. Okay, the peak direction. Clear? Okay, in both cases we have this. Okay, why do we have two conditions? This condition belongs to total minimum volume. Total minimum volume. This condition belongs to interruption of traffic. Okay, so in this condition the focus is on a higher volume. If the volume is higher, you need a signal. In this condition the focus is on how much the minor street is interrupting the main highway. So maybe on the main highway the volume is less, but the minor street has high volume and it keeps on interrupting the main highway. Okay, so to reduce the interruption, then you can provide a signal. Okay, so again, you need to know number of lanes on both roads, you need to know total of major, you need to know one direction for the minor. Okay, clear? Now you can see they have given us 100% value, 80% value and 70% value. Okay, 100% you should check these values. This is my first priority. If my minimum is more than this, done, condition fulfilled. Why did they give 70%? If you have a small town or high speed roads, then you will not check this column, you will check the 70% column. Got it? Okay. Now why did they get 80%? So it's not a small town and a high speed road, so this column not required. Okay, you are checking this column, you check this column, 100% column, and you did not match. Okay, your minimum is less than this. Okay, you can check this column additional. Okay, but if you are looking at this column, 100% column, if you match any one condition, this one or this one, you need a signal. This one or this one, in the 100% column, you need a signal. Okay, in any case, if you meet 80% column in both, okay, then still you need a signal. Okay, so there are three things with this warrant. If you meet 100% in either this table or this table, you need a signal. If you match 100% here or here, you need a signal. Second condition, it's a high speed road and a small town. You meet 70% in this table or in this table, you need a signal. Okay, and the third condition is you meet 80% this one and this one. Okay, then you need a signal. Clear? Okay, so this is for 8-hour volume. Then we have 4-hour volume. It's bit easier because you have to do it on the graph here. Okay, so this is the graph for normal case, and this is the graph for small town high speed roads. If you have small town high speed roads, match here, plot here. If you have normal condition, plot here. What are we plotting? Same things. The total of both, this is for minor, one direction volume for minor and both direction volume for major. For how many hours? 4 hours. This warrant is for 4 hours. Okay, you can see there are different curves here. Each curve is for a different number of lanes. Okay. So for example, you have 2 lanes in both roads. So your curve is this one. Okay. If your points are below the curve, no need for a signal. Points are above the curve, signal required. Clear? Okay. So select the curve, select the graph and plot 4-hour volume. Okay. All 4 points must be above the curve because the warrant is for 4 hours. So all 4 points must be above the curve. If any one is below this condition, not fulfilled. Clear? Okay. Next one, how many hours? Peak hour. Same thing. Normal curve, small town high road curve. Pick the curve. Okay. Number of lanes. Plot it. How many points? 1. Only the peak hour. And that point should be above the curve, obviously. On the curve is still allowed. Okay. Signal is allowed. Clear? Okay. This is warrant 3B. Okay. That was warrant 3A. This one is 3B. So 3A means just look at the graph, plot your point. Point is above the curve. Condition satisfied. Put the signal. If not, then you can move on to 3B. Okay. For 3B, there are 3 conditions and all 3 must be met. All of them. If you meet condition 1, you didn't meet condition 2, not done. Okay, you have to meet all 3 of them. Clear? What are these 3 conditions? Delay on the minor street is more than these values. Total, okay. This is total delay. We are talking about total delay. So this is not per vehicle. Okay, so that's why you see 4 hours and 5 hours. Okay, so you take the delay from every vehicle, you add them together, and the total is more than this value or this value. This is for 1 lane, this is for 2 lane. Okay, if you have more than this delay for the minor, then this condition is fulfilled. Volume on the major road. Okay, sorry, volume on the minor road. Sorry, volume on the minor road for the same direction for which you have the delay. So you have 2 directions, right? Delay in one direction is more than these values. In the same direction, the volume should be more than these. Again, 100 for 1 lane, 150 for 2 lanes. Okay. And total volume for all directions is more than this or this total. Okay. This one if it's a T intersection, and this one if it's a cross intersection. Okay. So delay on the minor, volume on the minor, total of the minor, total of the intersection. If you fulfill these 3 conditions, this is satisfied. Okay, so 3B satisfied. If you meet all these 3 conditions, any condition not satisfied, then you have to, okay, you will go forward. Okay. Yeah. If you applied, as I told you, there are 9 warrants, 9 conditions. Okay. We are discussing the 3rd one now. Out of all the 9 warrants, only this one is satisfied. Now this warrant is for what? For peak hour. So you are deciding to put a signal because of how many hours? 1 hour. Okay. So what about the rest of the hours? So you applied 8-hour warrant, not satisfied. 4-hour warrant, not satisfied. And the other warrants, not satisfied. So there's only one condition which happens in 1 hour of the day because of which you are putting a signal. So that means that it is better that you put a signal which is actuated. So in the rest of the hours of the day, it will adjust according to traffic conditions. Okay, because in the rest of the hours of the day, signal is not required. Clear? Where does this happen? It usually happens near school areas, office areas. We have fixed timing for going in and coming out. You may have one peak hour which goes very high, and then the rest of the day is nothing. Clear? Warrant 4. Warrant 4 is for pedestrians now. Okay, so we need 4-hour pedestrian data. Okay, and we need the major street vehicle data, major street pedestrian data, major street vehicle data. Okay, so if this is the major street, I need volume going in this direction, and I need pedestrian volume going in cross. Okay, clear? How many points you need? 4 hours. Okay, so you will plot these points again. This is for normal, this is for small town and high speed routes. Plot the 4 hours. All 4 points must be above the curve or on the curve. Any point is below the curve, signal not required. Clear? Peak hour pedestrian volume. So what are we doing now? How many points? 1. Only for the peak hour. Clear? And again you select the curve and so on. Yeah. What am I saying? Yeah. If you fulfill this criteria, that means pedestrian are only a concern in how many hours? 1 hour. So what did we say then? But you cannot have actuated for pedestrians, right? So then we put a signal with a button. Okay. What else? There is a, if you decide you want to put a pedestrian signal, then there is at least a 20 feet side obstruction or 20 feet restriction of the side distance. So the roadside should be at least clear by 20 feet if you go with this signal. There should not be any signal, other signal apart from this within 300 feet. Okay, why? If there is already a signal in 300 feet, then go across from there. Walk a little bit, right? Go and walk. Okay, this is what they are saying. This can reduce up to 50%. These values can reduce up to 50% if the pedestrians are very slow. How much considered very slow is this much? Okay. Okay, so very slow means maybe kids, maybe elderly people, maybe disabled. So these are special locations. Then in those cases, the criteria can be reduced by 50%. So if you don't meet the curve, but you are 50% to the curve, it's done. If the pedestrians are very slow. Then this one for school crossing, which is similar to pedestrians, you may need a signal near the schools at mid blocks or at intersections. Okay, mid block meaning in the middle of the road. Okay, because it's a crossing location for them. You have to study the gaps. In this case, you have to study the gaps. And obviously, already talked about it, that near schools and offices, there's a specific hour in which the volume is very high. So we have to check the gaps in those hours. Okay. So we already talked about the gap. Okay, the gap between the vehicles which are on the main street. Okay, so you have to see how many gaps are available for the kids to cross. Okay, in the peak hour. Okay, gap means what? Gap includes what? Crossing time, the time to go from point A to point B. Buffer time, like a factor of safety, additional time. Okay, and allowance for the groups. In the school time, that's the kids may be crossing in the form of groups. Okay, and then they are slower, obviously. Each one is pulling them, pulling their friends back. I saw a balloon there, my red car and so on. Okay, so they go slowly. Okay, happens to me every morning. Okay, the frequency of gaps. So you first of all calculate how much gap you need in the peak for the crossing, including all these things. It should be 1 every minute. There should be, so you, for example, for doing all this, you need 30 seconds. Okay, so there should be a gap available every minute of 30 seconds. There should be a 30-second gap every minute where there is no vehicle crossing, so they can cross. If this is the case, then you can ignore the signal, otherwise you need a signal there. Okay, the minimum number of crossing people, children crossing should be at least 20 in the peak hour. Less than 20. Okay, and the most important thing that in some cases you may not go for a signal even after fulfilling the condition, because kids are kids. Okay, they see red, they start looking at it, they don't cross. What can we do? Okay, Warrant 6, coordinated signal. So one signal connected to the other. Okay, so if you meet any one of these conditions, then you can go for a coordinated signal, but you should only check it if the other intersection is less than 1000 feet. If it is more than 1000 feet, this is not required. Okay, what are the conditions? There is a one-way street, or there is a street which has very high volume only in one direction. Okay, and the other signal is, you feel the other signal is close enough, so if I make it coordinated, the traffic flow will become better. It's a two-way street, okay, and you feel that if providing the coordinated signal will improve the traffic flow. So one thing is common in both of them, that is the judgment of the engineer. So you can do some simulations. If I make it coordinated, is it making it better or not? Okay, and on the basis of that you can decide. Crash experience, I mentioned it last time as well when we were discussing warrants. You will always find warrant with the crashes. Okay, so what are they saying here? So if you meet all these three conditions, then this warrant is fulfilled. What are the conditions? You already have, you know about this problem, and you try to solve this problem using other means. Speed reduction, increasing sight distance, and so on and so forth. But the crashes are still happening. Okay, how many crashes are happening? 5 or more in 1 year. Okay, and this is what they adopt in Bahrain as well, 6. Okay, so 5 or more. So, and these crashes are which are happening because of the intersection. Okay, so those crashes. And the third condition is for each of any 8 hours of the day, vehicles they fulfill the 80% columns. Okay. Yeah. So this is related to the first warrant. The third condition is related to the first warrant. So what they are saying now, they added another one to the first one. What we were saying in the first one? If you meet 100% in this table or this table, signal required. Small town, high speed road, if you meet 70% here or 70% here, signal required. Okay. If you meet 80% here or 80% here, signal, and 80% here, signal required. If you meet 80% here and the first two conditions of crash, signal required. Clear? 80% here or 80% here, one of them. And the two conditions of the crashes, signal is required. Clear? Okay. I'll not go in the details, you can read it. But this one is related to road network. Okay, so you already have a road network which has signals, and your intersection doesn't have a signal. So again, based upon your judgment and opinion, if I put a signal, will it improve the overall network flow? Then you give a signal there. Okay, so again, this is based on judgment and simulations. This one for railway crossing. If you have a railway line that is crossing a highway. Okay, then we have this graph. Okay, in the graph, total volume of the major road and the one-way volume of the minor road. Okay, and you come to the graph. According to the distance, you will select your curve. Okay, what is distance from the road to the railway line, from the intersection to the railway line? Okay, if you plot these points and they are above the curve, okay, 1 point. If you are above the curve, you need the signal. If they are below the curve, you don't need the signal. Okay, so again, that is a very special case where you have a railway crossing near the intersection. Clear? Okay.